Yeah.
Chance it,
The
Kevin.
number one lesson, the lesson we've learned so far with builders is do the strip out yourself.
Oh God.
Because then you know when to stop.
Oh God, no.
PTSD.
I couldn't believe when I went in there and saw the one in Swindon. Oh my God, they've taken the wallpaper off, and the plaster, and the doors, and the architraves, and the door frames, the glass above the doors, the whole damn lot.
You know, we first got into property, didn't we, because of an accident, really, more than anything else. We were just back from travelling, and we were looking for something to do. You know, like we were in this mindset of let's do something always, let's look for things. And we decided that we wanted to get a place together. We looked at flats initially. We found that it was actually quite expensive, not really what we wanted to go for, not where we wanted to live, and ended up finding, just through flicking on Instagram, a 3-hour free property seminar. At the time, we were obviously considering the flat, and so a property seminar sounded right up our street. This is what we should be doing. Let's not go in blind. And went along. Martin at the time said, enjoy it.
No, that came with us.
You came with us, didn't you?
That came with us.
Yeah,
yeah.
the first one.
Yes.
Yeah, the first one. Do you remember
Very
the
first
fella at the front? And
In Watford,
in
Mercure
Watford,
Hotel in Watford.
And he signed us up to that. That was the 3-hour, free 3-hour. Come on, Martin, come with us. But the first one was a 3-hour seminar. Went to that, and he sold us a 3-day property basic training for £1,000.
Yes.
And
For two
for two people. So Martin gallantly stepped aside and said, "Go on, you two go on, off you go." So we said, "Oh, thanks very much."
I remember he wasn't so happy about us
I was
spending £1,000.
very sceptical.
Very
Here
sceptical.
we go. So this £1,000 3-day workshop is going to turn into a 10 grand. The next one, you know, it's going to go up and up and up. And it's, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Well, you know, just don't lose all your money.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's actually what you said was, okay, it's £1,000, but don't pay any more.
Yes. Don't sign up on the day. That's
Yeah.
it. Because they always try and get you to sign up on the day,
Yeah.
and it's the one in a lifetime opportunity. Blah 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 blah. And if you miss it, you've missed it forever.
Well, we decided to do the £1,000 one because at the time it was like a dip in the market, or you know, he was explaining it to us in such a way that it was like the time is now.
They give you so much information. I think that yes, there's low. He knows lots and lots. He's got credibility. He builds his own credibility, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And then it just sounds like a bargain that you can't afford to miss it. You can't not do it because it'd be daft. It's very good salesmanship, but it can be very good information.
It was.
Yeah.
And I think they were the UK leading property educators at that time. So they basically had a lot of students already, and they may have even introduced us to someone that day.
That's how they sell you.
Yeah.
They bring people along who've done it before. You know, oh, we were just a young couple living a normal life, and all of a sudden, you know.
And we wanted to
found
earn
this.
passive income. That was our main goal when we came back from travelling. We knew that if we wanted to travel again and ever go back to that kind of lifestyle, we knew we had to make some sort of passive income so that it would sustain us doing that kind of travel, which is what we really wanted to do.
Actually, that's true. Yes,
Yeah.
we wanted to figure out a way to fund doing more travel, and property seemed like. And also at the time, obviously, my dad had just passed away, and you know, he had a colourful history and no property to his name, and that was always something growing up that it stuck with me. It made me think I'd love to have that. You know, all my friends and people that I went to school with, they're all in their family homes, and a lot of parents are mortgage free, and you know, they're living that sort of lifestyle, and we didn't really have that. And property I always knew I wanted to own my own home, but when we started looking and then stumbled across the course, it sort of became do you know what? No, we're not looking for our own home. We need to do this as a business. It was stumbling across that course and doing that first 1,000, but then, well, that's what, we'll probably get into, but obviously after that £1,000 course, after day one, I remember going back home and thinking of Martin's words, don't spend any more money. But at the time, we went back to the flat and I turned to you and I said, I think they're going to get some of our money.
Yeah. You were nervous.
I was nervous.
You were nervous, yeah.
And they did take a big chunk of our money. They did.
But on that 3-day course that we did, that was a real eye-opener for me. They talked so much about different strategies that we could do and how it wasn't, I think the idea that you had to add value, that was it. That was the one rule, add value whichever way you can. And that was what really cemented that idea for us.
Yeah.
Then that was the key. And then they taught us all these other strategies. And then the other thing was borrowing money to buy the properties.
Yeah,
and that was really unlocking
because
a lot
Martin,
of potential.
you always said to us, you're looking for the best house, the worst house on the best street. And that's sort of, most people know that, they know if they can buy a rundown house in a good area and do it up, there's going to be something there.
Yeah.
But what we really learnt on the course was the methodology behind the purchase and how to manage those money.
What do you mean, methodology beyond the purchase?
So, there's lots of different ways to buy a house. It's not just you and your girlfriend or partner or, husband, wife, whatever it might be, go and get a high street mortgage with a 10% deposit and that's what you've got. There's so many different ways now to buy a house. You can have up to 4 people on a mortgage, and we just don't know these things. You're not taught money in school. You're not taught how to be that's something that, I know I'm rambling, but that's what somebody once said to me as well. They said, doing property and doing this thing, it's not really about the property, and property is not the only asset class that you can do things in. Effectively, it's about being a good steward of money and of creating equity. If you buy a car and you keep it really well, and then in 30 years' time it's a classic car, you create that equity in the car. The same if you buy gold or whatever it might be, you're looking to create that. But what we found when we were looking at the property side of things is this country it's almost like an epidemic of run-down property, where people are just living in houses that are damp-ridden or decaying or completely run down.
And once you start walking down a street with that in mind, you'll notice that probably about at least a quarter of all of these homes have poorly insulated windows, or say even single glazed windows, or they'll have, plants all over them, or the gutters are full with, they need a lot of maintenance and they get left and they get abandoned and then they get into worse and worse state. And then eventually they either get condemned or whatever, and they're not worth anything.
Just don't see the opportunity. It's spotting the opportunity. That's the thing. People don't see it. They see a house to live in is a collection of rooms, and they think, I'll put that sofa there and this table there, blah 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 blah.
It's a house that they want to live in. They look at it and they think, I like the paint on this wall, and I
emotionally involved.
Yeah.
I had somebody buy a house because it had a dishwasher. That was unbelievable.
We'll talk about that some more.
Oh God! When I was an estate agent, there was a new development. It was Abbey Green at the top of Chertsey, and lovely flats. But this lady was getting divorced, and she was getting a settlement, and she had 250 grand to spend. This is 20 years ago, and 250 would buy you a lovely 3-bed semi, 100-foot garden, south-facing, garage, drive, in a cul-de-sac, lovely, perfect.
Sounds idyllic.
She had a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old, 2 doors. Awesome. We were saying, have this one, it's great, look at that, it's perfect, it's walking distance to everywhere, and that's it, that's the one you should have, definitely. Just under the stamp duty threshold a lot. No, she bought this 2-bedroom, first floor flat for 280 because it had a dishwasher. I thought, Christ. Wow. And she mentioned she was paying stamp duty and the bicycles for the kids. She was on the first floor, so they had to just go downstairs in the stairwell, cluttering up the place, and it just didn't work. It just didn't. It was just ridiculous. But people fall in love with it, buy with the heart instead of the head. Yeah, they buy emotionally, so
Yeah.
they don't think of it as a business opportunity at all. And people don't know what they can do because they've never tried doing it. So,
But that's one thing I think is worth noting as
confidence.
well. Yes,
Having a go.
having a go and confident. That's the bits where, you know, when we're doing it ourselves. I mean, obviously, you taught us, or you gave us a lot of confidence with the first property, just to be like, you know, I'm like, oh, should I knock down this brick wall?
Yeah.
You know, is the ceiling gonna fall?
Yeah, go for it.
in?
It's fine.
I don't know. Just throw your hammer at it. Let's see what happens.
No, we did check first.
Of course we checked, yeah, but you know, it's that sort of mentality. It's like just give it a go. But I think, you know, we had a lot of people come and help us along the way, or give us their time. And you know, even after one day, we had Ben turn and say, "Yeah, I don't think I could do this." Yeah, so it's not for everybody, and it definitely isn't for the faint-hearted. And you know, we're living here in this property now, which is a bit of a building site, and it isn't easy. I mean, we've got clean rooms, but this is the biggest room, and it is not done. What I've said to people in the past is, you know, we were looking at buying a 2-bed flat.
Top floor flat as well.
I think it was set
in
first floor.
Hatfield.
It's first floor.
Oh, was it first floor?
Yeah. Still, we were looking at buying a 2-bed flat, which is a perfectly normal thing to do as a young couple in our situation with the type of finances that we had available, and anybody who is doing that isn't necessarily doing anything wrong. But after the course, we realised if we spent that money differently, we could create more money quicker in our lives than if we just bought that place and then carried on working and doing things. And at the time, it was about making the money do its best for itself, effectively. You
Work
know,
as hard as it could.
make the money work for us rather than us working for the money. That was one of the lessons. And obviously, Nick was looking for a flat at the same time, or was considering doing something, and he was with someone at the time as well. I can't exactly remember the situation, but I must have come back from the course and been like, "No, Nick, you're not. Don't do that. You got to do this." And bless him, he said, "Okay."
Tell me what to do.
When he came back from the courses, it was that information about making the money work harder for yourselves and just attacking it in a different way. Because although I'd been developing property since '92, and I'd done several and made loads of money on them, that was great, but just one at a time, the one I was living in at the time. So I lived in a building site for, how long?
10 years probably?
More, yeah, easily.
Mum wasn't
One
very
to the
happy
next.
with that.
No,
situation.
Mum wasn't happy, yeah. But, you know, that was the only way I knew. I wasn't as educated in that field. I was just doing what felt right. But I wasn't renting anything out, I was just flipping them slowly. Basically, that's what I was doing, flipping them slowly. And you can only go so far with that. And when you guys came back with all this new information, I thought, that's actually worthwhile. Okay, because I was terrified that you'd spent an awful lot of money and wasted it. But no, it was good stuff, and it was way more than I ever knew, even being an estate agent. So fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play.
And I mean, to be fair, I mean, we did, the cost of the course for the two of us to do it was about $5,000 short of a deposit. So all of the money that we had basically there available that we were about to buy the house with, we took a massive risk and said, let's not buy this flat, let's do this course.
Let's educate ourselves.
Let's educate ourselves.
I think one thing that always stuck with me is that you'll pay for your property education one way or another.
That's what they said as well,
Yeah.
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 You either do the course and get properly educated, or you fuck up and you learn.
Yeah. And so instead of buying that 2-bedroom flat, we bought a 4-bedroom house that was run down, you know, needed a lot of work. It was actually a probate sale. The 2 children of the couple the lady had passed a few years earlier, the husband had just passed, and his 2 children were selling it.
And it was a really bad time in the market, actually.
No one was buying. It was just like the beginning of COVID.
It was just after Brexit, and everyone was just on pause. No one wanted to invest their money. No one wanted to do anything. Like the whole thing was on pause because I was working at that point. I was working as an estate agent at that point as well, so I could kind of pick up on what was happening, were people spending money. January was always not a very busy time anyway, and that's when we completed on the property in January.
That's right.
So we were probably looking back end of the year, and yeah, no one was viewing, no one was going out at all. So it was a good time in terms of in the cycle.
Exactly. And I mean, that's so the property we saw was on the market at 340, and we put in an offer of, I think it was 290 was our first offer.
So
And
cheeky. That is so
50
cheeky.
grand less. And they said, I called the estate agent. I said 290, and he said, look, I know that's not going to go. It's really. I'll put it for them, but you know, I'm pretty confident. He called me back and he said, it's got to start with a 3. And I said, you know, oh God, that's really stretching us. You know, we can't really do that. That's 295. And he called that up, and then he called me back again. He said, it has to start with a 3. And I said, right, well, look, you're stretching us. This is the top of our budget. We'll go to 300, but that's it. And we got the property, which was great, because I think the flat we were looking at was like 250 anyway.
Yeah.
But it was quite nicely done. And so we've gone from looking at a quite nicely done 2-bed flat to this 4-bedroom house, run down. And then
we only actually, for the deposit, we only actually needed £5,000 more for that deposit, and obviously the renovation money. And then now we've got this massive 4-bedroom house, 125 square metres of space that we can move around and work around and make something of.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we are now 4 years on, and that first property is just refinanced. We've just managed to now pull out that money, rent out the property, and the other day just had our offer accepted on house number 5.
Yes.
Which is very exciting. Big detached bungalow, loads of land, massive amounts of potential. Really excited about that one.
I'm going to see that tomorrow.
We are going to see that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, you haven't.
No.
Oh yeah, of course,
No.
you guys haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? You walk through the door and you're like, wow, it's huge, isn't
It's
it?
massive.
It's
You just-
big just as it is.
Yeah.
And to think of what we potentially can do through permitted development, going up into the loft or doing, 6 metres, 8 metres, potentially extension onto the rear, it is going to be huge. And I've been speaking to a lot of agents this week about it to say, what do you think it's going to be? How much do you think it's going to be worth when it's done up, and what do you think? Is there anything that we need to know about the type of market that we're going to be, this property is for? And one of them came back with that really good point to say that try not to cut too much into your garden. Any family that's going to want to live there, if it's a 4 or 5 bedroom property or more, they're going to want a garden. So focus more on that than cutting into the property. Go up into the loft instead of going out into the garden. Makes sense.
Well, I don't know if I'd agree with that.
I would. I really would.
Well, but do you?
I think a bit of both.
A bit of both. That
Yeah, of
garden.
course.
That garden is ginormous.
Yes, but if people are coming to look at properties
Relative
and
to
there's
what?
Yeah, exactly, relative to other properties that they're looking at.
Relative to a garden. I mean, honestly, it is huge.
I haven't thought of seeing it.
It's
It'd be great.
huge. Do you know what? When I was there, and I thought we had 2 options: either do a loft conversion or do a second story and add a new top.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
Right? Never considered going out the back until we had that meeting with the surveyors, and I was stood at the back of that house going, God, this garden's going to be a nightmare.
You were?
I was dreading it. I was like, I can't, this is too much. Like, to actually renovate this
After
garden.
this one.
Yeah, there's too much.
Yeah.
There's too much garden.
We haven't even renovated our own garden yet.
And then they came up with this idea, oh no, just pull it out, do it all on one. I thought, God blimey, thank God for that. It'll make us have a manageable garden. Even you could do pathways, you could have a little football area, you could have a hot tub.
Well, let's measure it and see what the normal
Tape measure won't be long enough.
Got a laser measure.
I've got my super tape measure. No,
We have a
I
laser.
can't wait to see it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be
I
amazing.
can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be really good to get the costs of what these 2 different types of building works will potentially be, because that's obviously a new realm for us. We haven't done any kind of extending of
Yeah.
any kind so far, so that's something that's going to be exciting to
Yeah.
Well, that's the main. So
Step
that's
into.
one thing. That's a good point actually, because the reason that we decided we wanted to do an extension here was
In Brighton.
in Brighton. Sorry, in the flat here in Brighton that we're in currently. The reason we wanted to do an extension was so that we could actually tick that off. You know, it's almost like we're building a resume. And that's one thing we've learned as well. So property number one, nothing really building works were done. We did a little bit of bricking, filling some doorways, not even brick, studded up some doorways, plastered over them.
You moved the kitchen from the front to the back of the house.
Yeah, but that's not that big, is it?
Well, it's a big move for most people. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Okay,
Made
so
an
we
extra
moved the
bedroom with an
kitchen.
ensuite.
We did actually
Quite a
ensuite
big-
as well, yeah.
But it wasn't extended, so it felt.
We made better use of the space.
Right, so
Yeah.
But you didn't-
let me start again. There was no brick or concrete work in the first two properties, and then the
Yeah.
third one we did the lintel, so we sort of widened the doorway. You know, we did a little bit of structural work there, sort of did some stitching in that brick at the back, and then this one we thought, well, we'll do an extension. Just a little extension on the back, and then now this next one we're looking at adding a floor. So it is obviously step by step, but when you get to the next point that we're looking to hopefully do is a commercial development where we buy a flat or we buy a tower office or something like this. Not a tower, one day, but a few places of commercial usage, so that we can convert them into residential. So this is another interesting point. I'm rambling again, but I'm going to say it. So another interesting point is that with Boris Johnson and Brexit and the COVID and all this thing that happened, they changed the laws that meant that you could very easily, legally convert office and commercial space into residential to support the housing crisis. And
Under permitted development.
under permitted
without
development,
planning permission.
which is the important part. So you
Yes.
don't have to apply to do it. You can just buy a commercial unit and convert it into prop flats.
Meaning less risk overall.
But you need much more money to do that, and that means going to a commercial lender, and a commercial lender wants to see that you as a team who are asking for this money have got the track record to support their investment, if you
Risk,
will,
yeah.
their risk.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So they're trying to mitigate their risk by ensuring that you're a good enough developer. And so the point of us now doing the extension here and doing those additional floors there is so that our CV, when we then go and do the big one that we really want to do, it says, we have done these, we can do this, we've got our building team. And it's like, it's funny because they say when you buy your first property that you're getting your foot on the ladder, you know, you're on the property ladder. And it is a ladder because you have to go up each bit by bit so that you can get access to the big stuff.
Yeah. It's like foundation courses,
Yeah.
so you can get on the big one.
Yeah.
And actually that's something else that they mentioned to us from our course, from our training, was the importance of your power team. So it's not all on you. You're not going to write up the paperwork, build the property itself, put the property on the market, do the viewings for the property. It's not all about you. It's about the team in which you create. And as a property developer, that is what your job is. To go and find the best team to support the creation of this and sale and or rent or whatever avenue you choose to go down. That's your job. So you've got to find the best accountant, the best solicitor that knows and understands the types of work that you want to do. And I think we've met some great people over the years, and you know, every time if someone's not quite right, we'll go and try it with someone else, or you know, always keeping our options open. We've also met some really shocking people, so it's nice now that we have replaced those.
Yeah.
Chance it,
The
Kevin.
number one lesson, the lesson we've learned so far with builders is do the strip out yourself,
Oh God.
because then you know when to stop.
Oh God. No.
PTSD.
I couldn't believe when I went in there and saw the one in Swindon. Oh my God, they've taken the wallpaper off, and the plaster, and the doors, and the architraves, and the door frames, the glass above the doors, the whole damn lot. I thought, oh,
What's this?
2020,
Yeah.
we bought a property in Swindon.
Yeah.
It was a 3-bedroom terraced Victorian property in Old Town Swindon, and we loved it, didn't we?
I
it
did.
was just
I loved
Great
it.
bones.
Yeah, great
really
bones.
good.
It was
Yeah.
the worst house on the best street.
I thought you meant
Yeah.
Swindon. I also loved Swindon, funnily enough.
I liked the Old Town. It was
in
it
Old
was
Town.
Yeah, Old Town was
As long as it didn't go too far. Maybe edit that out.
Yeah.
And it looked like, I mean, no one had, I mean, what was the story there? That was a probate
That was
property.
also a probate.
That was a probate property.
That's a big point, actually.
We got into
Probate
that property
is what you
before it came to market because we were calling up agents. We were viewing everything and anything.
You were.
I was calling up agents, viewing. Maybe we'd go up on a
We
weekend
went down there loads of
and
times,
we
didn't we?
spent.
Yeah.
We'd view maybe 8 to 10 properties
Loads,
every
loads.
time we went.
Oh yeah, and
Someone
just
would obviously cancel. But
traipsing around to estate agents, just networking.
yeah, just speaking to people.
Hi, we're the latest property developers. What you got?
We had only ever done like one property or two. I think 2 properties by that point. We were spinning a yarn.
That's it.
Okay.
Collars up, Oh yeah, we're in property.
Yeah. And just asking all of those questions. Have you got anything else that's coming on the market?
Just keep in touch.
Just trying to stay as current as possible with those people. And after you go out a few weekends, you start to bump into the same people.
But it was difficult, wasn't it? Because like you said about the power teams, we've now gone to a completely new area.
Yeah.
And we went to the new area because we were looking for something more affordable, potentially to rent out. We were looking around. We knew Hertfordshire. We couldn't stay in Hertfordshire. It was too expensive.
Yeah. We wanted to buy a freehold house.
Yeah. And get hold of it.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot of lessons on that house. And we hired this builder, Kevin the and he basically ragged and ravaged that property. But it was our own fault as well because it was far away. And we sort of handed it to him and said, do this.
Yeah.
And then we're not as hands-on as we should be. He was sort of left to run rampant.
We trusted him in ways that we shouldn't have trusted him. We let him take control of that property when that was our responsibility to take control of that property.
And we should have been there at least, twice a week, checking on their work, making sure things were being done as to the standard and direction that we wanted. And ultimately he ended up, running off with cash and leaving the property in a state that we had to then we learned a lot of lessons.
That was hard. That was a hard one. That
Really hard.
Because I thought, oh wow, we've just lost some money. It wasn't a huge amount of money.
It wasn't, but it
was it was 4 figures, so fair dues. So okay, and it did a bit. So but there was so much that we had to do to put it back to square one, really, because it just taken out everything.
Yeah.
Every piece of woodwork, which, bear in mind, as a carpenter, he was just making himself some more work, wasn't he?
That's it. He told us he was a carpenter.
He was giving himself a job.
But he's not. He was not a carpenter at all. The way he treated the wood in that property.
No.
Ripped up floorboards, pulled out those door liners, and then they were
and it
just
had a lot of original
features.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, we lost a few.
And they were just dumping stuff in the garden, and they just it looked like they'd had a squat party, and just pulled things out.
It was a lot of graft, and when I first saw it, I could have cried. I thought, oh, don't let on. It's all right, we've got this. Because the last thing you needed was more doom and gloom. And so I thought, right, roll your sleeves up, we're in. Yeah, so we saw it a year later.
Well, then we were there every week after that fuck up. We were spent every single weekend there. We would drive out on Friday.
Yeah.
And we would stay until 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And we
Sometimes later.
Yeah, sometimes later. We did everything that we needed to do then for I think
I moved in.
Yeah,
for
you moved
a few
in.
weeks.
I did, I moved in for about a fortnight.
And for about 8 months then, every weekend for 8 months, give or take.
Yeah. Oh, and the dust, I mean...
It's hard.
And it was cold at points.
Yeah, but ultimately it became a wonderful property for us, and we sold it in that November the following year. So it was about 10 to 12 months, the whole project. And I think we bought it for 173 and sold it a year later for 285.
Yeah.
So, and I think we netted about 65 grand, maybe less.
Yeah.
But around that, around
Pay for the wedding,
60.
then some.
Yeah,
and that's
pay
the,
for our wedding.
And that's the thing. Yes, you might have to get your hands dirty. Yes, it's going to be hard and tiring and all the rest of it. But it's the best paid work you can do.
Yeah.
Well, for a part-time weekend job.
50 grand from a few weekends work.
Yeah.
Give over.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you realistically look at it, you know, every time you do that, you're earning more than a year's salary. So
Yeah.
you're doing your normal job,
Yeah.
going on the weekends to do the work, and you're doubling your salary.
That's it. Job done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't lose.
And actually, because of the property where we bought it, it went on the market. We had viewing straight away.
Yeah.
We had viewing straight away. We had offers within 2 weeks on the property
Yeah.
because it looked the part. It was
Oh,
in
it
the
did.
right
We
location.
matched it next door, remember?
Yes, we
It
did.
was-
We matched it to the
yes,
frontage
so-
next door.
Yeah,
so
even though it was a terrace.
complemented each
Next
other.
door was really done beautifully, and
Yeah.
they spent a lot of money on it. It was gorgeous. But right, let's make a matching pair, because a matching pair brings both the values up, doesn't it?
And it broke my heart when next door went on the market about 2 months before we wanted to go on the market. I cannot tell you, my stomach just,
Direct competition.
oh my
yeah.
god,
Yeah.
the butterflies that I got, the nervousness that I had.
Oh
then.
yeah.
And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, no time to be worried, just get on with it.
Yeah. But you know, the people that missed the first one, make sure they didn't miss the second one. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
But we did it well. Like whoever took that house is going to be very happy.
Oh
with it.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was a cracker. Yeah.
So the Swindon property actually we financed entirely with investor money. We did credit cards as well, I think, as well to fund most of the renovation. But the cash itself came from. But no, we've had that now.
We use credit cards for purchases. We tried to fund a lot of the materials that we bought, whether we had builders or not. We always tried to make sure we were paying on our credit cards.
Yeah,
And
that's
they
an
were
important
0%.
one. 0% credit cards for materials, so wood, bags of plaster,
Yeah.
sticky stuff, whatever it might be that you have to buy on the credit card, 0%, because then when the property sells, you just pay it all back and it's cost you nothing. You know, 0% money is the best money you can ever get.
We didn't use any of our own money to buy the project in Swindon. We got an investor who gave us £50,000 for a return of 6%, 8%. We used an investor who we gave a return of 8% to for a year or 18 months. Was that the first?
It was a year contract.
Yeah.
So the contract basically stated that we borrow the money for 12 months from point of purchase. So we actually got the money, I think, a couple of months earlier, and we put it into what was at the time a high interest savings account. So
Of
that
1%, probably 2%
nothing
at the time.
so that we could maintain the fact that the money was earning money at least, or it wasn't earning nothing. We were paying her the savings account interest monthly until we actually used the money. And then that money paid, I think, because the property was 173, so, and it was I think we did a 15% deposit plus solicitor fees and all that sort of stuff. So I think
I think the mortgage was 141.
141,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
That's the number I've got on mine.
something, or 142. So 142, I think, was the mortgage. Yeah. So about 30 grand was the deposit, and we also borrowed 10 grand from someone else at 8%.
A friend. Both of them were friends and
Both
family
and
friends.
family.
You also, as a point of interest, we did it in your name only
Yeah.
because your name was already on a house.
Yeah.
Don't know whether we should include that though.
Right.
Just.
That's the
Fair-
thing, why
no,
we
we
had a
can
bit
say that.
more.
Yeah.
So we had a 15% deposit so that it worked out with the earnings and the mortgage.
That's
and
right, yes.
And that worked out better that way.
Exactly.
We put it in my name only because you already owned a property.
You're going to get a higher,
2 properties.
Yes.
a higher percentage loan to value.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the point. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, because the smaller the deposit, the higher the interest typically on the loan that the bank or other other funders will give you, because you're asking them to take more risk. But anyway, ultimately, yes, you bought the property in your name. It was a low cost purchase, realistically, at 170,000, 141 mortgage.
Yeah.
And we had about 30 grand left to renovate, plus credit cards.
Yes.
But it was tight. It was a tight budget.
It was, but then as we were developing the property, I was keeping an eye on the market, always make sure I had the right move alerts coming in. And all of a sudden, properties in that area were going for like 20 grand more than they'd ever gone for ever before. So then we kept looking at the numbers, and then maybe this was about 6-7 months after we purchased, and the done up values were just crazy.
They were going up.
They were going up.
As we were renovating.
Yeah, so we got very lucky there, I think, because then we thought if we spend more money to make it a higher spec property, we're going to get that back.
Yeah.
Yes, but we didn't decide that
Before.
until we saw the market going up.
Yes.
True.
And they thought, right,
Then
it's
we thought-
worthwhile putting an extra bit in here
Yeah.
and there, make it gorgeous.
Well, we'll use a nicer tile. We'll do.
Yes,
you know.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I loved those tiles we used out the front. You know,
They were
when I
lovely.
found those.
And we got
up
those on
there, yeah.
Facebook Marketplace, didn't we? The slate.
But they were these thick slate,
Brazilian
Brazilian slate. That's
Yeah.
what, they were stunning.
Yeah, they were.
So 15% deposit was 30 grand.
No, those numbers aren't right. That doesn't work, does
Yeah.
it?
It was about
17,
Yeah,
17.
it's about
175.
about 26.
Let's get the numbers right.
It was about 30 grand
with the solicitors.
with the fees and all
Okay.
that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with fees. Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah. And we then came up with the cash. You know, we a lot of it went on credit cards. I think we
Yeah.
put probably 10 grand of work on our credit cards. We just kept applying for new credit cards. It's tough to, you know, but 0% for 24 months, 0% for 22 months, and we knew it was a 12-month deal.
Yeah.
And we gave ourselves, you know, even if it sat on the market for another 6 months, we had that buffer, we had that available time.
And because we weren't paying for that money, we weren't paying to borrow that money, it kind of gave us more
Yeah.
cash. And also just we didn't have to come up with that cash physically because it was all on the credit cards.
Yeah.
For all the transactions we made, we knew quite comfortably
Yeah.
it could sit there. And then if we needed to, we could do a balance transfer onto another 0% card if we really needed to,
Yeah.
as like an exit
Yeah.
for that.
And then it gives us the cash to actually pay for builders, pay for workers, whatever it might be. Yeah, it's very hard to say without looking at my spreadsheet, but I'm pretty sure that we were all in for about £70,000. I think it was 50,000 from investor one, 10,000 from investor two, and 10,000 of our own money that
On
we
the
had to
credit
put on,
cards. Yeah.
which ultimately meant that when we did sell, take off the 35 from the initial purchase as that was our cash, we're then in the deal for another, let's say, another 35. So from 177 to 285, you've got the 35 on top of the deposit of 35 that we spent. So at 177, we're then at 207 plus the 5, 212 roughly. Between 212 and 215, all in, was our cost. And we sold at 285, which gave us about the 60 grand profit, which is right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think we took 10 grand after selling for some fun. We all took a little bit of cash, didn't we? Did various bits and bobs.
And then we invested the 30,000 into the next property.
Reinvested 30,000 and then spent. No, it's on our wedding. It was
good though.
wonderful. Yeah. But that was the main reason to do that flip. We didn't have any other means of paying for our wedding. We did the property, recharged the pot for our next property, which is obviously what we're sitting in now. And we had a wonderful wedding and was able to take all of our friends and family to the south of Spain for what was a week's long wedding in true Erin fashion.
Oh yeah. I worked hard for that.
So now that that property is done, we're here deep in the thick of property number 4, and for the first time we're going to be taking on property number 5 or in this case, a second property at the same time. So in all other instances, we've done, finished, moved on, done, finished, move on. Here we are, halfway done, and still moving on. So we finally got to that point of being able to feel comfortable enough to do more than one.
Yeah. And now that we've moved to Brighton, which we feel is going to be our investment area, this is the first time we've done a renovation near to where we are already. So I think that's going to make a really big difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
It's going to give us a lot more availability to
Yeah.
be there to make sure things don't go wrong.
And this will be our base.
It's great continuity with having the builders and the surveyors.
We have the
and
team.
solicitors.
We know
do.
that now.
We've got a very good team now, a team that we can trust of
Yeah.
builders
Yeah.
and you know just local people as well.
Which we found during this build. So
Yeah.
it's taken us 4 properties to really find that team that we know are going to move forward with us. And every other property, we've had a new mortgage broker. I mean, we've used the same solicitor because he's our friend from school, and we've used the same accountant because he's a friend from school. So again, people that we can trust. But ultimately, we're here now. This is going to be for us. We're going to finally have our own property that we get to live in and be a part of, and just for us our marital home, if you will. But again, it took us 3 properties to do it, and that's another thing I really want to drive home, is that to do this requires sacrifice in a lot of ways, and it could be sacrifice of the fact that it's taken us 6 years to live alone. It could be sacrifice in the fact that you can't have your weekends for fun because the Swindon property is falling into ruin and you've got to go and do every weekend there just to save it and the investor money. So it's not without its stresses.
And also it's long term. You know, we knew that from the minute that we started doing this, nothing's going to happen overnight. And the accumulation and compounding of every single year on top of itself, you know, with this year we've only just realised cash from the very first project that we ever did. That's the reality of it. But if we'd never have done that 4 years ago, we'd never be buying property number 5.
Yeah.
And the trick is just recycling that money, and that's that long-term strategy.
And that's the real lesson.
Staying consistent with it.
Being consistent, like anything, you know, just keeping at it. And, you know, we do love it as well. Like, you have to love it.
Of course we love it. It's a hobby now.
Yeah.
It's a passion project.
If you don't.
Each property is a passion project. It's creative. It's, you know, explorative. There's a bit of risk, but the more you do it, the less risky it becomes.
Although
The
it
sense
does-
of achievement is great.
There is a sense of
Oh
achievement.
my goodness,
Huge.
when I get the photographs on WhatsApp saying, look at this, we've just done this in the bedroom. And, wow, that's awesome. Or the bathroom, that's fantastic. You know,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job.
But it's like, you know, sometimes like, oh, what do you want to do tonight, darling? Should we go for dinner? You know, or do you want to go to the movies? Nah, let's strip the bedroom.
I know, let's lay some laminate flooring. Okay.
Not to be confused with stripping in the bedroom.
Yeah. Let's strip some wallpaper in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It's all worth it.
Looking forward to a new sofa.
Yeah. I'll be really pleased to have a lounge.
And on that note,
Yeah.
And on that note,